Most people will die broke, and the scariest part isn't that. The scariest part is that they followed all the right advice. They saved 10% of their salary, they skipped the expensive coffee, they read personal finance books, they did everything they were told, and that is exactly what destroyed them. Because the advice you receive when you have little money was written by people who already have a lot of it, and those are not the same thing. Here's the first thing nobody will tell you. The saving strategy was not invented to make you rich. It was invented to make banks, fund managers, and financial advisors rich. The ones who take 1% of your assets every single year. 1% sounds laughable, but 1% of $100,000 per year over 30 years compounded is $180,000 quietly leaving your pocket and entering someone else's. Silently, legally, with your full consent. But that is not even the most interesting part. There is a concept that mainstream financial media almost never discusses. It is called the velocity of money. Wealthy people do not just earn more, they run the same dollar through multiple assets before it settles. Simple example. An entrepreneur takes $100,000, starts a business, pays himself a salary from that business's profit, invests part of the profit into shares of partner companies, receives dividends and reinvests them into the next project. $1 works 4 times. An employee receives a paycheck and puts the remainder on deposit. $1 works once. The difference in wealth between these two people after 20 years is not a difference in luck. It is a difference in how many times $1 rotated. Now here's the math that will break your brain. Most people think about money linearly. I earn this much, I spend this much, I invest the rest. But there is another formula, and it changes everything. Your real financial potential is calculated not from how much you have, but from how much you can earn per hour, multiplied by the number of hours you can monetize, multiplied by leverage. Leverage is the key. Leverage means your product sells while you sleep. Your content gets watched while you eat. Your system runs while you are on vacation. A person without leverage sells time. A person with leverage sells a result, packaged once and delivered 1,000,000 times. Look at a concrete and verifiable example. Nick Eubanks, an American SEO specialist who has publicly shared his story. At 26, he was earning around $50,000 a year as a freelancer. He could have kept selling his time by the hour, and he would have always hit the ceiling of physical hours in a day. Instead, he created one SEO course, investing a few weeks of his time and a minimal budget into its production. That course began selling automatically, and in its first year generated more than his entire annual freelance revenue, while he spent 0 additional time on it. That is leverage in action. 1 unit of effort multiplied by an unlimited number of buyers. Here is what nobody explains about poverty in a truly honest way. Poverty is not the absence of money. Poverty is the absence of options. And the fastest way to create options is not to accumulate a cushion. It is to build an asset that generates choice. The choice to stay at your job or leave. The choice to accept an offer or decline it. The choice to move or stay. People with money make decisions from a position of strength. People without money make decisions from fear. And that difference in position is worth more than any amount sitting in an account. Now about the most dangerous trap for people with under 100,000, diversification. Warren Buffett has publicly said that diversification is protection against ignorance, and that it makes no sense for those who know what they are doing. This does not mean you should blindly bet everything on one thing. It means that when you have little capital, concentration beats diversification every single time. Because diversification averages your result, and you do not need an average result. You need an exponential one. An average result on a small base is guaranteed mediocrity forever. Sara Blakely invested all $5,000 of her personal savings into one product, Spanx. Not 5 products, not 3 parallel ideas, one single point. This fact is well known. But here is what nobody discusses. She did not do it because she was brave. She did it because she had no choice. With small capital, Diversification would have meant that none of her projects received enough resources to launch. Poverty itself dictates concentration. Rich people diversify because they can afford to lose a portion. People with little money must concentrate because they cannot afford not to win. Now about skills, but not the way you usually hear about them. Forget upgrading your skills for a resume. That is the logic of an employee. The logic of an entrepreneur sounds different. What skill, given distribution, becomes an asset whose value is not limited by my time? That is a specific question with a specific answer. Skills that scale through content, teaching, coaching, deep expertise in a narrow topic. Skills that scale through a product, programming, design, copywriting. Skills that scale through people, sales, management, recruiting. Everything else is just work. Well paid, perhaps, but work. And work always has a ceiling. Alex Hormozy, in his book and public interviews, described the principle that transformed his business. He stopped selling a service and started selling a result. This sounds like wordplay, but the difference is enormous. A service costs as much as the specialist's time is worth. A result costs as much as the result is worth to the client. If your consultation helps a client earn $1 million, you cannot charge $100 an hour for it, even if it only takes 1 hour. You must charge a percentage of the million, or a fixed sum that reflects the value of the outcome. That mental switch, from pricing time to pricing results, is the exact moment when income starts growing nonlinearly. The psychology of poverty works against you at a chemical level, and that is not a metaphor. Research by Princeton professor Eldar Shafir, published in the book Scarcity, showed that when a person experiences a shortage of resources, money, time, food, their cognitive abilities actually decline, as if they had not slept for a night. This is called the poverty tax, not a monetary tax, but an intellectual one. People with less money make worse decisions not because they are less intelligent, but because their brain is literally occupied processing anxiety about scarcity, leaving no computational bandwidth for strategic thinking. It is a closed loop. Scarcity worsens decisions. Worse decisions deepen scarcity. The exit is not financial, it is cognitive. You need to first relieve the pressure on your brain so your brain can figure out how to relieve the pressure on your wallet. How do you relieve that pressure practically? The first and most counterintuitive step: stop tracking every dollar. This sounds irresponsible, but obsessive expense tracking keeps your brain in scarcity mode constantly, which is precisely what degrades the decisions that could change your situation dramatically. Instead, ask yourself one big question. What can I do in the next 90 days that would increase my income by 30%? That question switches your brain from defense to offense. And in that mode, it operates in a fundamentally different way. Second, use the concept of minimum viable income. Calculate the absolute minimum you need per month to survive without comfort, but without catastrophe. Let's say it is $3,000. Now the question is not how to earn $15,000 immediately. The question is how to create one income source that covers those $3,000 without your active involvement. One small course, one affiliate program, one client on a retainer. When the minimum is covered passively, the brain exits survival mode and begins thinking at scale. This is not theory, this is neuroscience. Third, and this changes the game entirely, stop looking for opportunities and start building observation posts. Most people wait until they spot an obvious opportunity, but by the time an obvious opportunity is visible to you, it is already taken. Real opportunities are only visible to those who built a system for noticing them. People who regularly talk to people from different industries, who read not popular books, but niche industry reports, who follow not trends, but what people complain about in professional communities. Complaints are a map of unmet needs. Unmet needs are money waiting for whoever solves the problem. Jeff Bezos did not invent online retail. He read a report about internet growth in 1994, saw a figure of 2,300% annual growth, and applied simple logic. If the internet is growing this fast, then everything sold through it will grow with it. He was not a visionary. He was a person who read the right reports and could draw conclusions from numbers faster than everyone else. An observation post, not genius, a system. $100,000 is exactly enough to lift the cognitive tax of poverty, buy time for one precise decision, and build leverage. But money is secondary. What matters is the switch in your head, from preservation to velocity, from selling time to selling results, from waiting for opportunity to building a system that finds it. People who broke out didn't find a secret asset. They switched their operating system. And that is the only thing separating you from them.